First off, Al, it has been a minute. It's so good to be back in here. And this morning, I am here as a Franklin County High School alum, class of '94, and I have Terrence Martin, who was, what class were you, Terrence?
2010.
2010,
Yes.
And Miss Shanae Williams, who was class of 2009. Terrence played ball. Shanae was a Franklin County High School cheerleader, and we are here to discuss Shanae's petition to change the Franklin County Rebel mascot. This is such a momentous, momentous moment. Let's be a little redundant here, and really, in my opinion, well beyond time. This has probably been the hardest thing that I have ever personally worked on. I will open with that. The more I've read and the more I've researched, it's just really kind of unbelievable. Now, Shanae, when did you submit this petition to the Franklin County School Board?
It was June 8th.
June 8th.
June 8th.
And now, being the class of 2009, I know I was talking to you in '91 because there was a petition when I started Franklin County High School that actually took place right when you were born. So we're talking 30 years. A 30-year battle on changing something that most people, and this is where the subject just blows up all over the place. And one of the main things we're going to hear, and we're going to hear it over and over again, is about history. And I'm going to tell you right now, I am not going to allow in this hour for Shanae or Terrence or any other member of this community that is not white tell you the history of these symbols. That's not their place. So, with that being said, I'm going to ask Shanae, before we even get into history, why she chose to do this petition now.
Okay, so the petition started with basically the spark in the nation coming to terms with the racism at hand. And I just thought about, well, if we want to change something nationally, let's change our internal issue. Let's change something local that has been a problem for generations. Let's finally hold ourselves accountable and let's grow. And to grow, you must change. So this change is overdue and it's needed and it's time.
When we talk about that and we talk about the nation, I don't think a lot of people realize that we are absolutely at the heart of everything that's happening currently in the country. I mean, right here, right now in Franklin County, a lot of people, when we talk about heritage, and that was one of the main things the first time that I spoke with you, when the idea of this interview first came up. And we were talking, one of the things that impressed me the most about you is you understand the root problems, and, something that I would the only thing I can say is an indoctrination. We look at the Rebel mascot, and it is, well, going back to the history of the school and the mascot, we have to go back to the whole heritage, and people say the Civil War's over, yeah, but all of this is all linked together in these symbols. And when people talk about the Confederate flag, and someone may say, well, why are you talking about the Confederate flag? Because in 1991, with much turmoil and unrest, that is how that flag was removed from being a school symbol and another type of mascot. As a cheerleader for Franklin County High School, how did it feel to you to cheer under these emblems? I mean, was the Confederate flag, did it come out during that time at the football games?
It was more so, I guess, peers waving the flag, parents of peers waving the flag, seeing the flag, represented by white supremacists, represented by the KKK, and knowing this flag isn't our emblem. This flag represented our school, and it does not represent me at all.
So, and like I said, I mean, I graduated in 94, moved off, and, you know, I haven't had a kid, so I haven't been in the stands. But this was still taking place in the stand 2009.
Oh, yeah.
2010 for you, Terrence.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And one thing, Terrence, I'm sorry, I did not give you like a very, you know, proper introduction. Terrence has joined us. Terrence, you're originally from Cowan. Now you live in Brooklyn.
Yes, ma'am.
Man, I'm envious. And I'll tell you why. Like, I was taken to Brooklyn in Labor Day weekend of 2007, 79 St. Mark's. Like,
Oh, wow.
I know the house, I know the address.
Wow.
But you can imagine where I ended up in the middle of Labor Day weekend, can't you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And if you've never been in the middle of a Caribbean Day parade in Brooklyn, New York,
Wow.
I mean, just like, that's something to see. So, now, Terrence, you're here because, well, we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Yes.
So you kind of came and you're like,
Yeah, I kind of came as, I kind of like to label like as a refugee, right? And I came back home to seek safety and shelter and to seek a community that has always really been there for me. And like I've said before, I come home and a lot of these conversations that are happening on a national scale, I'm really just proud that Shanae really took it up on herself to initiate the conversation here. I think it cannot be stated enough how much courage that took. In spite of knowing the current climate of today, how divisive it could have been, how it is perceived now, I think it's really important that we acknowledge that and that bravery, because we wouldn't be here if she did not start the petition. I just want to start with that. But I did go to Franklin County High School. I played football and basketball. Played football for all 4 years and went on to college to play ball. But I just want to, if I can just answer your question, like, how would it feel, you know, putting the helmet on and wearing that jersey? And a story I like to say is, to be quite honest, I was kind of ignorant to the fact. I had a general idea of what that flag meant. I didn't know the nuances and intricacies behind the succession and why they wanted to succeed, other than I knew that it was in the opposition of me as a black man, right? And as I got older, I got to find more information about that. And that kind of goes back to why we're here in the first place, right? We're all here to be educated to a degree. I think there's a lot we don't know, and there's a lot we all have to learn. And for us to learn, we have to have conversations and dialogue, such as now, so.
well, and that's it. And so that takes us back to the history of this symbol. And the one thing, like, there's so many people, and I know personally how many years it took me to come to terms with the truth. And I have to say that in a way that I'm sort of like that obnoxious person that quit smoking, you know, or, you know how it is. It's like all of a sudden, you know, you're down on it. But I know for years, if I saw that flag, and we're not talking about, like, we hear these names, the Confederate flag or whatever, we know it's a battle flag. But we're going to get to how it came up into our society, into our county, into our public high school. But first, I do want to address the sentimentality that is based, like, that's the we of Southern heritage. And I don't believe that people do understand the truth. So here's the truth. 1948 election, you've got a strong group of hardcore Democrats, and they decided to split off from the regular Democratic Party, and their main purpose for doing that was segregation. And that's where you get your states' rights. You get the states' rights Democratic Party and their presidential candidate of Strom Thurmond. And they carried the South in a lot of ways, and they got one electoral vote in Tennessee. But one of the main things that came out of this election was that flag. It was their emblem. It was their rallying cry to keep y'all from being in the high school you played at. And so coming up right after 1948, or during this time, we've got Governor Jim Nance McCord is the governor of Tennessee, and he does the first state like sales tax, and he does all this public funding for public school system. And Franklin County High School, the old building that we know, I went there. I guess, well, that wasn't y'all. Was it? Oh, that was an old building.
Waiting on the blue.
Al, where were you? Like, I'm sorry, I'm going to throw Al in here. Al, what year did you graduate?
71.
71? So you were in that, yeah. So anyway, 1950, you got Central and Winchester, you got the Red Devils out in Deckard, and they come together in a new high school in 1950, and you get the first Rebel. Now we get to the mascot. You've got a lady, Mrs. Holmes. She's a junior in high school at the time, and they ask her to draw them a rebel man, which was like a, crude representation of what we use today, kind of adapted from Ole Miss later on. But all of this goes back to a fight to keep segregation. And these emblems are saying that we are not going to integrate our schools. So then we get in this whole battle. Y'all, I'm going to be honest with you. When I found the 1954 annual of the Franklin County High School Rebels.
With the rebel flag.
And that is, I don't know what time that annual came out, but I know that Brown versus the Board of Education, that ruling came down in May of that year, that segregation was illegal. And Grundy, listen to me, I'm sorry. I've been in Grundy County for so long. Franklin County did not desegregate until what year? Do you know what year?
The first black graduated in 67, after being denied entry in 65, after they won a lawsuit in 62, 63. So the rebellion was definitely towards us. If we rebelled anything in Franklin County, it was to include everyone in the school system. It was to make it feel inclusive, because we were never a part of that. So the rebellion started with us.
And, it's funny because a friend of mine that, from first grade, Tamika Allgood, pointed out to me, that we were the first generation. And I never got that. I'm going around just like hunky-dory, everything's fine, which I think is the way that most people want to be. Mm-hmm. And that gets back to why, going back to that 1950, I want to read you the alma mater that is listed in the first 1950 Rebel Annual. And with that, you'll have to excuse me as I get on my phone, but this is what we're fighting for. The philosophy of Franklin County High School, simply stated, is to provide education for all in such a way that each student may become a well-rounded, well-adjusted individual. Among the objectives of the school are 1, to prepare for higher education those students who have the ability and the desire to continue their training beyond the high school level, or courses, to prepare others for various vocations and trades for which they show aptitude, and 3, to train all students to become happy, useful citizens in a democratic country. And when we say democratic, all that means is equal rights for all. That's what democracy stands for. So we're here today, and it seems ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
So if you were going to say anything to anybody, all right, let's talk about the climate in the county. I don't live down here. So how do you feel? Do you feel like a happy, useful citizen? Let's see. No. Well-rounded, well-adjusted individual. Did Franklin County well, actually, you look like they did.
Well, thanks to my mom. But no, I feel like Franklin County is conditioned. I feel like growing up here, you don't recognize all of the racism that is around you because we are conditioned to not see it, because nobody wants to be held accountable. Nobody wants to actually own what's going on here. So we don't see that growing up. We get taught the lost cause, and we go play ball, and they play Dixie, and we cheer, and we dance, and we, make the scores, and we carry on. And then you learn later that all of that was insulting. And that's what, that's what sucks.
So, back in 1991, I had the pleasure, and it was an absolute pleasure. I had a telephone conversation with Quitman Spalding. And one of the stories that he told me, one of the first protests to happen was in '88. And I'm going to tell this story, and I'm going to tell this with the imagery, the way that I see it. And if I get emotional, please, I'll do my best to keep calm. But the best way I know how to tell this story, because anybody else in the United States or the world listening to this, what we're conditioned to is abnormal, people. I'm just going to tell you, this is abnormal. But I believe it was Thad Blackwell. If I have the wrong player, please correct me at some point. But in 1988, you got a football player. I don't know that much about football. Like me, it was like walking around the track field with my, But a running back's who's going to catch the ball, right, and run all right. So, we got this running back. But you have these parents, and when I said this is the first generation, 1988, we desegregated. The first person to graduate was like Townsend closed in 66. We might can touch on that. God, this history is a long one. But Tad Blackwell in 1988. So I want everyone to really get this idea. This is what a Franklin County high school football game looked like when I was in school, and which I got there in '91. But everyone in the crowd are waving the Confederate flags. We have a school fight song of Dixie. There are huge banners of the Confederate flag everywhere. So I want you to imagine being a parent, and your child is the first generation who had all of their rights given to them. But on that football field, they are surrounded by every emblem that tried to keep those rights suppressed. And your child is running, and now this running back, he had the ball, and nobody was in his way. But as soon as he got that ball, and the band come up with Dixie, you got to imagine, like, Franklin County football is a packed stadium, and the band's playing Dixie, and he's running with that ball, and all of those flags are waving. Nothing in his way. He just stepped out of bounds. So they would stop playing that song. Now, as a parent, and that's why, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to take over y'all's voice or your platform, but in my opinion, this is not Shanae or Terrence or Tad or Quitman's. This is not their fight. This is a fight like, Al, this is our fight. These are like, and when it comes down to it, what people do in their like private property, their homes, whatever, this does not belong in the taxpayer-funded school system at all. Like, I mean, and the fact that this is still an issue. Now, we look at that, and like you said, we're conditioned to this. We're conditioned that this is the way it is here. I mean, 72 years later, like that, yeah.
We're back in the civil rights. We're back fighting for an equal symbol that we have never received. The petition was basically to recognize that this did not come from George Floyd. Let's throw that out there. It didn't come from George Floyd. We've had our own George Floyds. This came from, this change has been asked so many times, and it's ignored so much because everyone here is so conditioned that they don't want to see what the symbols mean because of the heritage. But if that's going to be your heritage, give me some. If we're going to talk about heritage, include Townsend. If we're going to talk about heritage, tell the truth about the history. so that you know what you're glorifying. And if that's what you still choose to glorify, then that's a problem that you have with yourself. But don't put that on a public institution that I now have to glorify, and it was never for me. It never included me. It never wanted to include me. And then the KKK waves that flag. Nobody tells them to put it down. White supremacists wave that flag. No one tells them to put it down. So if it's not racist and it doesn't stem from any racism and it's just heritage, why do you let the racists use it?
Well, I mean, the whole point is well, you know, unfortunately, it's racist. I mean, there's no, and that's the thing. Right? But then we get back to the, like I said, the indoctrination and the emotions of it. And you know it in these hard conversations, hard conversations, and you know, and it's funny. I'm sitting up here and I'm thinking like, Al, you graduated in '71, so you were in the middle of all of this. So, you were in the high school when it first integrated. Now that's an
Actually,
interesting.
elementary.
You were in elementary?
Yeah, it actually started. I can't remember if it was the 7th grade or 8th grade, my 7th grade or 8th grade year, when actually the first blacks were enrolled in Clark Memorial, where I was at. And it started, I think, at that point, you know.
Now, would that been was it Juliet Taylor? Wasn't she like one of the first people?
I don't know. I don't remember her name, but there were several. You know, there were several guys. You know, that were there at that point. You know, I remember names like Ronnie Martin. Ronnie Martin was in my graduating class, the first guy to rush 1,000 yards at Franklin County High School. You know, people like that. You know, of course, Raymond Bonner was a little bit older than I am. The Millers were a little bit older than I was. You know, they were tremendous athletes that played at Franklin County High School. The Grays, Kenneth Gray was in my class. Another super great athlete, great guy. You know, we were good friends through high school. So you know, I remember, you know, like I said, it hit. I think it came around, like I said, the 7th, 8th grade that I was in at Clark. That's when it all began, locally for me. You know.
What? Well, I mean, I know we're talking about like childhood, and I know these are tough conversations, but what was the climate like?
I don't remember any problems. There was no problems that I know of. You know, they came in. It might have it probably knocked me out of playing football. You know, and but that was part of me that it happened because I didn't play the 7th grade year and tried to come back the 8th grade year. I didn't know as a freshman that everybody made the team, and so I didn't try as a freshman. You know, so I ended up not playing football or anything when I was in school, but and I regret that. But you know, I don't remember there was no problems. No, you know, nobody got out of line. You know, there were no major issues that I recall that I can remember as a child. You know, the only thing that happened that I guess was controversial through our high school years was they canceled the proms. The proms ceased to exist those few years.
Misogyny laws, is that how you pronounce that?
Well,
You know,
separation of races. Yeah. So
I mean,
no problem.
that was the only real issue that really popped up, you know, in my time in school.
So, now, I'm assuming that since this has started, that you've heard more and more stories.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is there, like, anything, like, right now that's come into mind that, you know, some of these experiences or some of these feelings from the people of the community?
Yeah, I actually me and Terrence, we went and sat down and we talked with Mr. Mikey Blackwell. He was a really strong voice back then. He was still a kid back then, but they went in a group of 10 to the high school in 65 after they had won the lawsuit, and they were denied entry. So that's what led to them being able to go in 66. So it's like, this is a place that, like you said, we are a Confederate seabed. we're groomed with it. We grow up around it. The people here are taught that. And I don't blame them for what they were taught, because we're taught the Daughters of Confederacy history. I know that that's probably someone's great-great-grandma. So it's hard to hold her accountable. Like, you taught me this and it was wrong my whole life. But as you get older, the blame does become on you when you don't go outside of Franklin County's education. You don't learn for yourself that if this is becoming a problem everywhere, and this has been a problem for generations, it's not made up. It's a real issue. It's a real problem, and it really should be addressed properly. We really have to take care of it, or we'll be here again in 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought. I'm sorry, I just flashed back to 1991. I was a sophomore. It was my first semester at the high school. I had to go on to North Junior High, and that's when we still had junior high. I went to 9th grade. I remember when all that happened, and I'm flashing back, and I never thought that I would be sitting here now. I know when our first conversation, you told me you grew up and Quitman Spalding was your neighbor. Mm-hmm. So in 1991, a group of players had decided they were having a winning season. Al may know this. Yeah, football. Franklin County is a big football town, yeah. So just in protest, it was just a simple protest. They were going to sit out a game, and they were going to sit out a game against Baylor. But the retribution for this simple act ended up being one of the probably most horrendous memories I have. But I wasn't even the brunt. We say that these symbols aren't racist, but when those boys were going to sit out the ball game, they just weren't going to play. They were just not going to play, and they're going to let their white counterparts take the field. They didn't ask them to sit out with them. White students stand there. They did their own protest the day before the game was supposed to happen, and they walked out of the school. And you end up with the KKK and the NAACP out on the streets. I don't know. I didn't walk out because I wasn't protesting anything. I went back to my classroom and sat there wondering what in the world was going on. Which basically me and another girl were sitting in our classroom on the second floor. The teacher didn't come back. There was nobody on the second floor of the high school. We finally got up and went across the hallway because we were on the cafeteria side, and looked out on the street from an empty classroom down the street from the window, and we couldn't even talk to one another. The retribution for wanting to remove this 30 years ago, the retaliation, was white students that were teammates and stuff, going as far as dragging black dummies up and down the street from nooses with the Confederate flags, and burning a cross in Quitman Spalding's yard. He was a senior in high school. So if these aren't racist symbols, why is there such obvious white supremacist retaliation to removing them? But here's the thing. Y'all, that was 1991. This is 2020. And I would like to think that this is the end of it. This is it. Because when we were talking about Franklin County, I'm sitting here, I'm talking about Al. That's the thing. My experience, I love people.
Yeah.
And I think we all just want to go back to that sense of community.
Yeah.
But we can't do that by excluding each other.
Yeah. And we also can't do it by, in 91, 92, when they decided that they would remove the flag, they still threw it in the emblem. So, it still crept back up. When they moved from the old high school to the new high school and they brought the Confederate man back, he's still here today in 2020. When our students don't even know that our fight song comes from blackface. So we are having black players celebrated by a song that is the Confederacy national anthem that was performed by blackface. And we all know that blackface is insulting, it's racist, it's wrong. So why are we represented by that in 2020? Like, it makes no sense.
Now, let's see. I believe you told me you met with Stanley B. And how did that conversation go, out of curiosity? I mean, we've got the school board meetings coming up, 4 days?
Mm-hmm,
4 days. Monday is the next school board meeting. And how did you feel? Did you feel like he was receptive to your message?
Yes, I actually feel like if it's up to Stanley, I could come and be a history teacher.
You know, going back to that, y'all, I've got to give a big shout out to Coach Red Roberts. And in history class, he had named me Woo Mindy. We heard that a lot. So, yeah. All right. So we're sitting here and we're looking at the whole country's on fire and everything, and like all these big major changes are happening. But like one of the most beautiful parts of it we're seeing is like
Unity.
Oh yeah. And like what a beautiful thing. So when we go back to the people that right now are listening to this and that are like tied in to that sense of home and belonging, I think that's the one thing, if we get anything out of this, is when we talk about Southern heritage in the South, is we need a new symbol of we.
Yeah.
And that's hard. I mean, that's really, really hard. And then, you get in that, like, so what's the new mascot going to be? And everybody, like, when you said that about the new high school, because it was my understanding that...
He was gone?
Yeah. Just FC. We were just FC, right?
No, he's there.
He's there.
He's there. He's on the shirts for the 2020 graduates. So he's there. He's alive. He's well. But it's time for him to rest. It's time to put him to bed.
So, yeah, and I, unfortunately, like I'm well, not unfortunately, Montel, but I mean, I'm in agreement that this is not much of an interview. There's no like lack of bias. Like I think we're just all in agreement as far as like this side of the table. But like, what would y'all like to see? I mean, granted, this fight, but to me, I feel like this fight's already over. You told me, you're like, this is going to change.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's just because, like you said, we are civilized, an educated, civilized society.
Because this is not a black and white issue anymore. This is a human issue at this point. This is, are you a good human? Are you racist? There's no white and black gray area. It's point blank. It's you're a good human, that's white or black, or you're a racist. And there's no comparison in the two. You can't be a good person and racist, so let's throw that out there. So either you're going to be a good person and you're going to want to unify, you're going to want to be inclusive, or you're going to be stuck and you're going to keep being in your ways and you're going to stay racist. And then nothing's going to change.
And that's basically it. I mean, we're talking about, but once again, we're talking about a hardcore indoctrination. And this is something that is all across the South.
It is. And I feel like we have to start with, we're not talking about a war that was fought outside of the United States. We're talking about one of the deadliest wars in American history. From Americans against Americans. We are talking about treason. We are talking about a loss. Like they were defeated. This didn't even last 5 years. Slavery changed forms over the last 400 years. We're talking about something that was lost. They didn't succeed. It's not like we're claiming a victory, and we're not trying to take away what, the Confederacy fought for if they were your grandparents, or I know that's a story and that's going to be something to you, but it's not something that should be publicized to me. Whenever they fought to keep me oppressed, they fought to keep me a slave. They fought because Lincoln didn't want to expand slavery, not about the taxes. So if we don't come to terms and really throw out what the heritage means with the real history, and then maybe they can decide, do they want that heritage? I feel like in today, you're not even given a choice. You're taught the lost cause. You're taught what they wanted you to learn. So you're not learning the truth. So you don't even know if that's the heritage that you want to glorify. You could be a good person and that cannot be anything you stand for. But because growing up you were taught that that's your heritage, that's what you believe.
Well, and we say states' rights, and I will say this like all day long. I am a huge proponent of states' rights.
Yeah.
I mean, like when we go back to that one principle, like we're not going to throw the baby out with with the bathwater.
Yeah.
But we also have to be very honest with what the states' rights were being invoked for. And like here, since we did approach the Civil War, when you go to Alexander H. Stevens' Cornerstone speech, which Alexander H. Stevens was the vice president of the Confederate States of America. And I'll read this like this is a straight screenshot from Wikipedia. So all of this information is easily available and researchable as it is. So the Cornerstone speech is so called because Stevens used the word cornerstone to describe the great truth of white supremacy and black subordination upon which secession and confederation were based. Its foundations are laid, its cornerstone rests upon the great truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man, that slavery, subordination to the superior race, is his natural and normal condition. This, our new government, is the first in the history of the world based upon this great physical, philosophical, and moral truth. Now, anybody that wants to tell me that the Civil War was not based on race, well, unfortunately, your leaders were very, very, very outspoken about that. But then again, we get back into, here we go. We've got a whole mountain, and that's a whole nother thing. So, basically, what are we saying today? We're saying that these symbols do not belong in a taxpayer-funded high school where all the children... Are we even going to have school this year, y'all? Oh, my God. I mean, we're fighting for something we don't even know if we're going to see the inside of anymore.
Well, it'll be new when they get back. It'll be different when they get there. But, yeah, no, that is what we're saying today, that it's time out to ignore where the symbols came from. It's time out to ignorantly ignore the history and the facts of the matter. We can have opinions all day, but once you start with those facts, your opinion is only going to be worth so much. And when it comes to those being the representation of the schools, your opinion doesn't matter. You have to face the facts. And the facts are our symbols rebelled the Union. Our symbols rebelled the idea of slavery not being expanded. Our symbols rebelled inclusion. Therefore, we need something that can unify us so that we can get that new we. Maybe this is our new history. Maybe the change is something that we need in Franklin County to bring us together. So maybe this change is our new we. Like, this is our new heritage. We overcame our past. We changed.
So now here we are. And really, you're rebelling.
Yeah.
Go
I'm a rebel, you know.
That's
Like,
all right. So
yeah.
let's talk about this. So do we want to get rid of
All
the
of
rebel?
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of it. Yeah, all of it. Yeah, no, there's no question about that, because I don't feel like they were rebelling the right things. I'm trying to rebel the oppression. They were rebelling the inclusion. So I feel like even if we were to say, you know, we were rebels, we all played for the rebels, we get that, but we know what it meant. So to give my kids the opportunity to be recognized as something other than a rebel, that's what I'm fighting for. I don't want them to be products of rebellion against people who look like them. I don't want them playing around Dixie, and that comes from blackface. Like, what lyrics they want to go to the land of cotton, where it was, you know, there was good, yeah, like.
Well, and you know, and then you're going to get this. Like, I mean, I'm somebody's going to say, well, you know, that was President Lincoln's one of his favorite songs.
Yeah, the Union changed it for his side. But we're talking about what you guys are talking about. We're talking about the Confederate national anthem. They can do that all day. It's facts that back it up. So I'm ready.
Well, you know, and that's the thing too, is we look at this and are you an American or not? I mean,
right. You want it treason or not?
Well, I mean, that's it. I mean, we are the Union.
Mm-hmm.
And the Union was able to stay together.
Yeah.
And with that, like, I don't know, I'm kind of fond of saying you can't serve two flags. And that's the truth. You can't serve two flags. So I know I keep bringing up the flag, but you said it's crept back in. But we have this rebel man, and then people are going to say, oh, and really nobody knows, the history of the rebel man. Like I'm looking at it, it's like, is that BGT Beauregard? I mean, I used to always say Robert E. Lee. And, that's the other thing, too. Like, when you look at Franklin County and our own history with the University of the South, we are in the hotbed of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We have John Armsfeld from, who built the hotel out in Beersheba, who happened to be one of the largest slave traders in the country, who performed the greatest migration of humans in this country that we know of.
Yeah.
And,
we've got Peter Turney. He wrote the letter to try to get Franklin County to succeed before Tennessee was ready as a state. If we're being technical, we should be in Alabama right now.
Mm-hmm.
If Franklin County would have gotten their way. So this is not new. It's not a new issue. This was planted in the heads of FC.
And that's what it is. And that's the thing about it is, and we don't even know where it originated anymore.
Yeah.
And it's not just FC. Like, this is the whole South. I mean, this is the entire South.
What, 11 states?
Wow.
Yeah.
So, you get to speak before the school board. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, so, I take it that you have been allotted a space in the floor for this. And that's coming up on the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Well, have you experienced any retaliation from this petition?
They keep throwing me in Facebook jail. Other than that, I get a few angry comments. A few older men in my inbox. They're not too happy with me, but for the most part, no. I'm still going everywhere, using my American rights, comfortable and freely. And yeah, they can't stop that. They just be mad. So yeah.
So Terrence, is there anything you would like to add to this?
No, I think Shanae's doing a great job, articulating the history, why that history is important, and how that history is relevant to today. So, I mean, I can add here and there, but I think that this platform is best served if Shanae is speaking. She's the one who spearheaded this. I'm here to support her in that objective, because the community we have come to support her, and I think she knows that. I want to make sure she does know that. And I'm just really proud of her right now for what she's doing.
I am too, and like I said, wasn't trying to spearhead her history lesson. I just didn't. I mean, I honestly didn't feel like on that one that I personally could allow you to try to educate my race.
Right, because it is. It's this is a white people are taking white people to the corner right now. This is you get your privilege in check right now. This is something that I need you to do. I feel like white people get it better from white people. To me, I'm the angry black woman. So yeah.
I have not seen anything angry out of you. What are you talking about? That's what's funny is when you said Facebook jail, you're my Facebook friend. I'm like, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
What are you in jail for? Free Shanae!
Yeah, I'm gonna need to free me after this.
No. So, I mean, because it is. I mean, we are in such exciting times, and we look at Franklin County and our whole world. Well, a lot of people with the pandemic and the economic stress. I mean, it is. I mean, the world is really kind of on fire, but with that is progress. And we know that Franklin County wants more industry. You want more tourism. You've got to welcome
everybody.
And that's one of the biggest thing about the rural communities. And basically, you have to be inclusive. And then I think about a good friend of mine, Charles Whitmer. He had brought me a sticker when I first opened. I tried to have a bar and a music venue, but I had it right there in the door, and I put it up right there where anybody walked in the door, and it says, "My America includes all of us." I mean, that's a simple. That is a simple thing. But I mean, I'm sitting here with y'all, and it looks like Franklin County did do you well.
Yeah.
Well,
We didn't give all of it to FC.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, here, we are. You get outside the school, you get outside the symbols, and you look at relationships, you look at, like, positive.
Yeah.
And if I can just add, I think that we would be remiss again to not acknowledge those leaders in the community that did contribute to our growth. We're not saying that Franklin County is just full of toxicity and like that they only produce, products that are, are ill-equipped to be a good citizen that can exercise their full rights to a degree and be responsible, right? I think we're talking about, we're talking about the people who supported us, how we got here, right? But also just challenging people, right? To say, hey, like, if you do want tourists to come here, right? Or you do want to provide a safe place for a young child to nourish and grow and to eventually prosper, let's examine those spaces, right? Are those spaces really what represents us and the people who are coming? Are those spaces safe? Are they validating for these young children who are there to, children are sponges, as you know. That's a very important time in their development, psychologically. And through that period, their identity, they are figuring out their identity. So when they are surrounded by microaggressions and invalidating symbols, such as what we're trying to remove, and that's spearheaded by Shanae, I think we're not just speaking for ourselves, we're speaking for the future as well. And we're speaking for the ones who had to swallow that pill, who had to exist in an environment that did not include them, did not consider them. As a citizen who works every day, as a citizen who occupies space, as a citizen who buys revenue and buy gate sales and tickets, as a citizen who intends to support their child, whether it's their son or daughter, at any athletic event. And we're speaking for the parents who were deterred from even not supporting their children, because that happened. We spoke with a gentleman who chose to listen on the radio in spite of his son being the star running back, because going to the game would be so validating and would be so triggering to him. When you hear those type of stories, I'm just unwilling to accept that. We have to do better. It's about setting the standard, and we are better than that. If we want people to come here, let's provide a space. Let's provide a place that welcomes everyone, like everyone is saying. And it starts, again, I want to keep saying this, it starts from having these conducive conversations and having this productive dialogue with people who you may have differences with. But with that, you're on the path of coming to a really good solution that will include everyone and not just some.
Like, I keep looking at Shanae, and she's just like grinning ear to ear over here. And I'll tell you, I've never been so happy to like have made such new acquaintances. I will have to say that. So looking at this, and we've covered all this, and oh my God, we almost ate up the phone line. So like we've got 10 minutes.
Oh, let them call
We are going to let them call in.
Let 'em
Shanae
call in.
is open for questions. Do we have anybody on the phone? Hey Al, what's your phone number?
My personal or the radio station?
Well,
The number is 967-2201. If you want to chime in this morning, please do so. But we ask you to be considerate and just state your opinion. And it's not a bashing time. It's time just to give your opinion and what you think. And I'll flash back to the last big fight that took place, I guess, to try to change the name. I remember those days very well. In the afternoon, I remember all the call-ins that we had, all the discussions on the air that we had back in those days, and it was a pretty hot topic the original time around. A lot of passionate people out there during that time. So, if you want to chime in, now's a good time to do so. If you have a comment, something you want to say. I know Monday, what does it take to actually make this happen? Who makes this decision on actually deciding that they want to change the name?
So the school board has to vote, and there are 8 members of the school board. You guys can learn their districts. maybe call and suggest they say yes, but they ultimately decide, and then they give the decision to Mr. Bean. So what I'm hoping is it doesn't take more than one meeting to get it done, because we've had plenty of meetings in the past. So I want this to just be the icing on the cake. This is the time, and this is just the easiest yes that they've had to give all year.
So you're going to Monday night, or you're actually going to ask them to bring it to a vote?
I would like to.
Okay.
I would like to.
But you're not sure that they will actually...
Yeah, I'm not sure what they'll decide to do.
Or whether or not they'll actually take up
Right.
a vote on it.
Right, yeah, I don't know if it'll be like a continued meeting. I'm sure it could be continued. But in the end, that's what I'm wanting. I'm wanting to see the vote. I'm wanting to count the vote. I'm wanting to get the reaction I'm looking for. I'm wanting the change. Actually, I'm not even looking for it. I'm going to claim that it's changed, and we're just going forward now. I'm trying to pick what we're going to be next.
Okay. And I guess if the school board agrees with making the change, what's the process of making that change?
I would hope that they would include the kids this time. That they would let them take a poll. We've been locked down with COVID. Get them involved. You could send it out online, take the Rebel Men completely off, and give them options. You know, I'm sure they have ideas. I'm sure everybody's not always wanting to be a rebel, so I'm sure there's ideas floating out there what they could be. But I say let the kids get involved. Let them decide.
I think you get somebody online too.
Okay.
So if you'll hit the button that's flashing, just push it. There you go. You're on the air.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Kennerly. Just wanted to first thank Terrence and Shanae for having the courage and doing their due diligence and coming out and getting all of this going. Not only are they stating facts to prove that this is not a thing of passion, but it's been going on for years. My grandmother actually was one of the families that was on the first lawsuit to get Franklin County schools desegregated. So I know personally this is not a problem that just started. Like Shanae spoke earlier, this isn't something that's going on just because of George Floyd. This is something that has bothered us for many, many years. And I just want to thank those two for all the work that they've put in, and just congratulate them for bringing this forward. I want to thank everybody, Mindy as well, for the work that she's putting in. And, you know, hopefully we will get this changed because, you know, like they said, change starts with us. It's gone on too long, and our children and our children's children should not have to continue to deal with this and be treated like they're not a part of a county that, you know, we pay our taxes in. Our children are athletes, but our children are more than just athletes. They deserve to be treated with the same respect and to be taught their heritage just as well. So thank you, Shanae, and thank you, Terrence and Mindy.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tiffany.
Push button one.
Hey, you're live.
Hey, this is Sandy, and I agree with the last caller and what you guys have said. You've done a wonderful job. I am going to call the person I know for the school board and wondered if I could come on Monday night for support.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I would love if you came. I'm with all the support. I'll take it all right now.
Okay, I'll find out when and where it is.
It will be at the board at 6 p.m.
Okay, all right.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Look, that's my open
Later.
invitation.
Good job.
Now, is the Board of Education in Townsend now?
No, the
No.
board is.
Go to line 3.
Oh, sorry, line 3.
It's up here on...
Good morning, you're live.
Yes, this is John Butler, and I'd like to make a couple of comments.
Okay.
My class of 1967 was the first class under integration, and during 1967, I'm very proud to say that we had no problems. There were no racial issues at Franklin County High School. I I did not hear anything during that year as far as racial comments. I didn't see anything. As a matter of fact, I don't remember any fights or anything between blacks and whites. And, you know, what I'm trying to say is that everybody accepted each other. And then there was something interesting. In 1967, the students, we got word that there wasn't going to be a junior-senior prom. And it did go back to the fact that we had integrated that year. And Greg O'Neill was the junior class president. I was the senior class president. And Greg and I went before the school board. And we talked to the school board about having the junior-senior prom, not having it canceled. And the school board agreed to let us have a junior-senior prom. No problems, nothing. We had a great senior prom, junior-senior prom. And the basketball teams, of course, we had both black and white players, and some of my friends today played on that team. We had, of course, the football players. And what I'm just trying to say is that we all came together, and I hope we can do that again without any animosity or any problems. And I think we will if people just keep cool heads and have sincere hearts and open minds. We can get things where we can come together, and I think we have in the past, and we will again. So those are just some comments I wanted to make. But I'm very proud of the friends that I made, and they're still my friends. And I had the honor of coaching Tracy Hayworth as his basketball coach at North, and also as an assistant coach, we had him as a football player. And there have been other great athletes. And so anyway, we need to come together, and we need to treat each other with respect and dignity, and we'll prevail both the white citizens and the black citizens. Those are my comments.
Well, I appreciate you for calling in, and you are absolutely right. Whenever we do take the time and we include everybody, we become peaceful. I mean, I've got many white friends, many black friends, and we all kumbaya just fine. So you're right. I'm glad to hear that in 67 that year went well.
Okay. Y'all have a great day.
You too.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Butner.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Good morning, your love.
Yes, I have an 8th grade niece, and she's going to be going to the high school next year. I'm wondering if this does get changed, and I'm hoping it does, praying it does. How long will it take? Have they told you anything about that, or?
I won't know anything like that until we actually have the meeting on Monday.
Okay.
So I won't know how long it will actually take them to implement the change. I'm asking that it be immediately, not a change that takes years. I don't want this like the lawsuit that's still technically open to where they say it's changed and it doesn't happen. I want it to be an immediate change.
Yep.
Okay, and will you go, after you change it there with the school board, will you change it with the Pee Wee League?
I feel like if the Rebel Man is removed from the high school, the Rebel Man is removed from Franklin County. That includes the Pee Wee. There's
Any
no
taxpayer-funded
there's no
program,
reason for it to be linked anywhere anymore.
Good, okay. Thank you so much. I'm so proud of everything you're doing.
Thank you, ma'am.
But hit the speaker button real quick. What's the speaker button? Like that. You mentioned Pee Wee football. Pee Wee is not a taxpayer.
Yeah,
it's not a taxpayers funded program, so it's no tax
It's the
money
parents.
involved. That's the leaders of that team that are making that decision on it.
Yeah, and if I can just add to that, you're totally right, Al, that is not a public institution. However, that is Pee Wee, as you said, football is a main thing in down south. It's almost like a religion. You know that, right? Friday Night Lights. So there's a lot of investment, community investment in these Pee Wee leagues. And I think the people who are leading those teams, I think if they are able to have the courage to have that conversation, examine their own mascot, their own moniker, because I'm sure there are, black kids or any people of color on those teams, to please put a mascot that represents everyone and not just some people, even though it is not a public institution and it is a community-led organization, I guess you could say.
You got a line open.
Good morning, you're live.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I graduated. Al Kemp said it wasn't any problems, but I graduated in 71, the same year that he did, and we didn't like it, but we had no other choice but to just sit there. And that same year that we graduated with seniors, they cut out the prom because they didn't want us there.
Was it junior year and senior year they didn't have it?
Yeah, they did have it. But anyway, I just said we had a problem. We didn't like it. We just sat there and dealt with it,
Yeah, and those days are over. The days of just dealing with it, the days of just getting the wallpaper over the facts, that is time out. That's what this is all about, to bring all those issues to life, to put some respect on y'all's names. Y'all went through it, and yeah, it's time that they put some respect on it. It was real. These were real issues.
Right, correct. And I just want to say you're doing a good job and keep up the good work.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Bye. Good morning, you're live.
Good morning. My name is Beth Taylor, and I wanted to call in this morning, first of all, to commend you, Shanae, and also Terrence for the work that you're doing in our community. I think it's great that you stepped up to kind of be the voice that so many of us here in Franklin County have felt like we didn't have a voice or we wouldn't be heard because in the past we haven't been. My children went to Franklin County. I actually have a daughter there now, and I have a son who graduated. He's already graduated, but nonetheless, he played sports there, and it was extremely hard for us to
Uh-oh.
Oh, hello?
Her phone dropped out.
and here my son was a black student. He felt horrible having to hear it, and so did we as his parents. So we supported him, and we continue to support sports in Franklin County, even now, though we don't have any children playing now. It's just a passion that my husband loves sports, and so do I. And so we like to show our faces and be a support to the county. But it was very hard to do that with the Rebel Man as your mascot and Dixie as your fight song, and us as black students knowing that it felt like more oppression coming from people today. So I think it's great that you stepped up, and I'm just elated that we have this platform to speak our minds and to hopefully be heard and to do away with all this. And as you said, maybe come up with a symbol that will be more unifying for the community as a whole. So I just want to say thanks.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for calling in.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, your open invitation for Monday. Hit the speaker button. There you go. Your open invitation for Monday is, they've been limiting the number of people allowed in meetings. So I'm not sure that you can pack the house, on a Monday night. Or are they addressed that with you guys?
Yes, that's a real good question and a good point. We feel that it's important that this is a beginning of an ongoing conversation. I think that conversation is better suited when you have more people at the table, but also while maintaining order so we can have these productive, conducive conversations. With that being said, we are in the works of trying to locate another venue that would provide space for more people to attend. Also providing the ability for the authorities to maintain order and control so we can have those conducive conversations. So to answer your question, yes, we are working on that. But for now, you're right. It's at the Board of Education. But for now, pending. TBD.
All right. So let's go back to the vote. If they vote yay, if you get a vote and they vote positive, I know that you want an immediate change. Of course, I realize that that's money to make an immediate change. Far as uniforms, not name, not symbols, not banners, things. Those can disappear immediately. Mm-hmm. But as far as uniforms, if there's any uniforms that have, which I don't know that we have uniforms that have those symbols, on them necessarily. Do we?
I think most have FC, but I feel like that's where the budget comes in. That's when we decide where do we allocate our funds, what's important to us. And I actually have been working with the lady who's been working with alumni that are willing to even start the fundraiser process for that aspect. But that's really where they count on the budget, and they make room for that.
Of course, the budget just got approved by the Finance Committee. It will be voted on 2 weeks from Monday, or a week from Monday.
Right.
You meet with the school board on Monday. The county commission takes up the budget the following Monday for a final approval. So I'm not sure that anything can be done budget-wise this year or not.
Yeah.
I mean, just to add to that, I think it's important to start this response by saying this is a community issue. This is a community matter. With that being said, we are going to fully expect our community, in regards to our school members who are overseeing the budget and how the tax dollars are spent, we do expect full support in them supporting it financially as well. However, with that being said, I think there is enough energy and enough vigor in the community that they will mobilize and they will provide financial assistance if need be, because a lot of people feel that adamant about this issue. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, I just want to clarify and iterate, this is a public issue, and the public institutions have to spearhead financially supporting this. We pay tax dollars, therefore, they need to use that to address this matter.
All right.
Let's see.
Hang on. Let him answer the phone, and then we'll... There you go. I see. Nope. He ain't put it on hold yet. So we got a few more minutes. I know we've gone over. You got line one. You can hit the button.
Good morning. You're live.
Hey, this is Janie Woodall.
Hello.
I cheered for Franklin County from 1968 to 71. And I've been a fan of the Franklin County Rebels for a very, very long time. My brother played back in the 60s. And one thing I do remember, and this is through my children being there and everyone else, what I do remember is that every player on the field, on the court, on the baseball diamond, anyone that was a Franklin County Rebel and was playing sports, they were very proud. They were proud that they were the athletes that they were. They were proud to be a part of the Franklin County High School. I do remember in 71, when we played Dixie, and we were all out there, doing our thing like we always did, there was a group that sat down. So if this name is changed, who gets to decide, and of the change of the mascot name?
I would feel comfortable letting students have a say in that. I'm an alumni, so I will not be at the high school to wear the mascot, so I don't feel like that's necessarily all of my decision. I feel like we could get them included, because the problem is, yes, we were out there proudly being rebels, but we had no choice. Mm-hmm. That's the only school that we have in the county.
You had a choice. You had a choice to be part of that.
Well, if we want it to be normal and we want it to be regular teens and be involved in the sports, be involved in the school, we didn't have a choice when that's the only school here. That's the only mascot that we were given the option to be. We didn't pick that, but those were the choices that we were given. And it's not fair that every person of color or everyone who doesn't agree with what the mascot is when you find out that you have to, now you can't be a student. You can't be involved. That's not a choice that you're given here. That's what it is. The mascot was chosen for us in 1950 when they combined the schools. It was chosen that way before they were desegregated. It was chosen that way when the rebellion was sparked.
I understand all of the past.
Right, and that's in the present. It hasn't been changed. So that's the present. We were never given a choice to be anything else in the future. After segregation was over, they didn't change it to include us in 66 or 67. So we were still left rebels, and that still was not our choice. But I still was a teenager. I still wanted to be a cheerleader. Terrence still wanted to be a football player. So we had to choose to be rebels. It didn't mean that we were proud of it.
Were you not proud to be on the field cheering for your team?
That me being on the field and me being proud is two different things. I was not proud to dance for Dixie once I learned what it meant. I was not proud to be a rebel once I learned what the rebellion was about. But as I stated, that was the only school that we have here. That was not a choice that I got to make for myself, what I wanted to be represented as. But moving forward in 2020, when you now have the choice to educate yourself and to find out what the symbols mean, and you can choose to ignore them, or you can choose to take the accountability about what it comes from, that's when I choose to make a petition and try to have the change.
You know, stop and think for a minute, JD. When we cheered, when they scored a touchdown, we didn't cheer because they were playing the song Dixie. We were cheering because it was a great play, because it was a score, because what happened on the field, it wasn't a song or something that made us jump up and go crazy in the stands. It was what that athlete did on the field. It wasn't their name. It wasn't their symbol. It wasn't any of those things. So, you know, I don't think, you know, they could have played, you know, Mary Had a Little Lamb, and people would have jumped up and cheered because it was a touchdown. So, you know, I don't think, you know, I know their names are names, you know, and I realize I was a rebel, but I'm not, you know, I'm not born, and I'm not, you know, a diehard. You know, it's got to be this, it's got to be that. You know, I am for the kids on the field. I'm for the heritage, you know, what these kids represent and what we all represent as a community. That's what I think we have to consider, you know, and I'm not saying that, you know, I'm glad I don't have to make votes, you know, to make friends or enemies out there on this. Because there's going to be a group of people that are going to be totally ill. There's going to be a group of people that are going to be excited. There's always those kind of changes.
I'm always be proud that I went to Franklin County High School.
Well, I am too.
Franklin County Rebel, and I don't think anything about South or Dixie or racist or anything like that. I'm proud to be part of that.
Oh, I agree, but you know, I'm glad that I'm, you know, that I'm what I am. But you know, I've never really considered myself a rebel. You know, I just consider myself a graduate of Franklin County High School. You know, so that's kind of where some of my thoughts are. I've never really sat down and pondered a lot of this. You know, myself.
See, I'm proud to be a Franklin County Rebel.
That's great. I'm glad that you're proud to be a rebel. I'm proud that I took time to educate myself past the history I was taught about the rebels. I'm proud that I can see that being a rebel and being so proud that I feel like it's being divisive, that I can see past that. I'm proud that I can acknowledge the heritage that people have behind it, but I'm also proud enough to know that I can stand up for what's right on this side of the thing and demand a change. But thank you for calling in. I'm sorry.
Go to line 3.
Good morning, you're live.
Good morning. I just want to say that I am very proud of the two of you for standing up for what you believe in. Don't back down. Being proud of something that's wrong is you useless in this day and time. We are in a time now that we need to let go of the past. Everything that it was in the past needs to be in the museum now. We need to move forward. We need to unite. And we need to learn that just because we were taught something doesn't mean that it was always right. Everything that was taught back then was a one-sided situation. So we need to move forward, and we need to understand just because you're taught something doesn't mean that everybody else needs to continue to be put into that box. So we need to move out of that box, move forward, come into the new age these days. And we need to learn to be respectful of everybody's feelings. I just wanted to say I'm very proud of you two. Keep up the good work.
Thank you for that word.
Thank you for that.
Good morning, you're live.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'd just like to say that I'm very proud of everyone who has taken the initiative to bring this forward. I would also like to say that I understand that people are going to continue to say that they're proud to be a rebel, and I understand that, but you should also be proud that there is a change that is about to take place, that the Confederate needs to be gone, that there's other people and other things that are more mindful of things that are going on. We're now moving in the future. I also would like to say that people do know that it is offensive, because if it was not offensive, then other schools, when you go to their schools, would allow you to play Dixie, and that you are not allowed to play that song at different schools because it is offensive. And so therefore, in Franklin County, we have to know that there's a stand that needs to be taken place, but we want to hold on to the past, some of us. I know that a lot of us are ready to move forward as black and white, and I'm very proud that there are other people standing together. And if we move forward to do this for everybody and everybody be included, so that when our black kids go to school, our black kids can be proud of being part of something and not have to be proud of something that they are not part of. I also would like to say that we need to be mindful of all students, and that we need to bring Black history into our schools so that it'll be taught and understood, and that schools are not teaching one-sided history. And I'm very proud of you too.
Thank you.
Thank you for those words. That's it.
All right, guys. It's 9:20. Anything you want to do to wrap things up?
Well, there's one story that I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you because it's crazy to me. When you're talking about the prom, I went to my sophomore and junior prom. I don't really think about the junior one. I kind of like it. But my sophomore prom, my prom day got killed in a car wreck.
Oh, wow.
Trying to outrun the law, dukes of hazard stuff. True story. But my cousin was going to take me to prom, but I didn't have a prom dress, and I was poor. I was so poor. Like, there was no way my family could afford a prom dress. And it's weird to me now because I'm flashing back to, like, Goodwill. That did not exist in 91, okay? There were not, like, actual dresses. And this is the hard part for me. I was, like, trying to dig my annual out because a girl in my French class, and I can see her face, plain as day, but I can't tell you her name. But she loaned me a prom dress. And that's the only reason that I got to go to, like, wear a actual dress to the prom and have my picture made. And you know what? It was just, I mean, it was a black girl, and I can't tell you her name, and I'm looking and I can see her, but it's something as simple as something like, I'm sitting there, in class talking about this, and she's like, I've got a dress for you. I've got a dress for you. And that is why, I got to dress up and go to the prom. And I mean, like, that's it. That's the community and that's the unity. Like, we're just, there is no color.
Right,
There
like
should
I
be
said,
no color in a classroom, that's for sure.
Yeah, like I said, this is not black and white anymore. This is, are you a good human or not?
Right.
This is past black and white.
And this is having some generosity.
Yeah.
To be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Yeah. To be able to have true empathy.
Yep.
And that's what empathy is. Empathy is to be able to look at a person's circumstance and put your heart where their heart is. And if you can live with that, I mean, that's what this comes down to.
You're absolutely right. It's going to come down even to the vote. There's going to be a table. There's going to be room and space for people to talk and people to express themselves. And it's going to come down, can someone empathize with someone across from the table? And when we have elected officials, that is their task. You are voted and put in that position because it's assumed or presumed that you will be able to empathize with not just some of your constituents, but all of them. And that's what it comes down to, empathy. And thank you for saying that.
So bottom line is, if you know you're a school board representative and however you feel, you need to talk to them and tell them what you think and what you're thinking, because, without your voice to them, they don't know what's on your mind. So do that, y'all. Thanks for coming out. Good luck with your venture.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
You're welcome. And maybe sometime we can come back and talk about if it goes positive, maybe how things work from there.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'm down.
Anytime.
All right.